Hi, everybody, and welcome to our latest Tech Talk for March. Today, we have Florian with CrowdStrike. He'll be going over some just a generic overview of their product, as well as some best practices for cybersecurity. Some of our upcoming topics as well. We have a networks for April, our Tech Talk will be with Mettler Toledo, and we have some other vendors coming in May and June. And I can't remember the next learning series topic off the top of my head, but we will have one on April 12th.
Yeah, April 12th will be the Micro 800, so the small controller update.
Also coming up, for those that have already heard about it and signed up, thank you. For those that haven't, we do have some Factory Talk Design Hub and optics. So our newer HMI portfolio seminars coming up, if you'd like to attend in either Dallas, Houston, or New Orleans or Baton Rouge. And you can find all these on our website under the reynoldsonline.com under our events page. There should be signups and links for that as well. In November, the previous Rock Live will be combined with Automation Fair for a week-long event. And it'll be the first week in November as opposed to the second week as it was last year. And it will be in Boston. So keep that on your calendar. Nothing will be in June in terms of Rock Live. It'll be combined with Automation Fair this year. And with that, I'll send it over to Florian at CrowdStrike.
Thank you, Brian, and hi, everyone. So my name is Florian Goutelier. As you can probably hear with my accent, I'm actually based in France. I hope you can understand everything I say, and don't hesitate actually to ask any question if you want, if anything is actually unclear. But yeah, I'd like to talk about today about the CrowdStrike security, endpoint security, and especially how we can deploy it in the OT space. And that's really about that today. So let me share my screen. Hope you can see it. So I'm a global OT specialist at CrowdStrike, working for now 3 years at CrowdStrike, being 20 years in the cybersecurity domain. And yeah, also for now 8 years, I'm actually specialized in the OT space. So basically at CrowdStrike, for those who know about us a bit, our mission is really to stop breaches. So very quickly on that one, I think it's still important to understand what is our DNA. And when we talk about stopping breaches, our DNA is actually about threat intel. We are coming from the threat intel world, where we actually track more than 200 different types of threat actors across the globe. And really the goal is to stop breaches by actually securing any type of workloads. And I'm going to talk about that a bit. And really today's reality is that the breaches are actually everywhere. They are hitting and disrupting organization everywhere across the globe. Every organization of all sizes, industries, from every type of verticals, any type of regions. And by the way, yeah, regarding that, we recent research from IDC told us that more than 1/3 of organizations worldwide have experienced some form of ransomware attack or security breach in the past year. So of course that's a lot, and that's where we are actually trying to come into play by providing different type of protection. So already for those who knows a bit, the Falcon Platform, it's really a cloud platform from where we can deliver security in a form of cloud modules. and we just have to deploy a Falcon agent. That's what we call the Falcon agent, which is the foundation. So we deploy the Falcon agent on any workloads. So the goal is really to focus on any type of workloads, but especially in that case, we are going to talk about OT today. So OT asset where we can deploy the Falcon agent, or any type of asset where we want to get visibility in the OT space. But the focus is also being able to protect data and being able to protect identity as well. We have some specific security modules that helps us to monitor any type of threats, any type of threats around identity and data protection. So regarding the way we deploy the Falcon agent and what we can do, basically, there was a survey from the Sense, from Sense. The Sense survey asked actually 2 questions to OT customers. The first question on the left was really about what are the biggest challenges in your organization regarding OT technology. And most of the customers were telling about visibility. So visibility is really about what is the most important for us, for them. The second point was around what is the system, the control system, which is at greatest risk for compromise. And most of the answers were around HMI and engineering workstation. Those assets actually where we can deploy the Falcon agent. And so on that one, as we are positioned in both IT and OT, and especially we were coming from the IT world, we have to be honest on that. Really, the goal is also to do the same for OT, and especially at the time of where we can see the convergence between IT and OT, which is more and more something which is of concern, because we are seeing a lot of communication between those two worlds, but still actually IT and OT teams are working in silo. And really the goal of CrowdStrike here is not only to protect those OT assets, but also to make the communication better between IT and OT teams. So the Falcon agent, so this Falcon sensor that we deployed in the OT space, has basically the same capabilities as the traditional IT endpoint security agent. But we have also additional and extended capabilities for OT. Some of them are the fact that we are certified with some specific ICS vendor. So for instance, with Rockwell Automation, that was actually the first one we were certified with, meaning that we can actually install the Falcon agent without any performance impact on a machine where we deploy the Falcon agent. It is also something that which is really important in terms of making sure that there is no performance issue, but also incompatibility, software incompatibility. So that's the reason why we have led some tests with those ICS vendor. And I will get back to those tests which has been led with Rockwell Automation. We are trying to do the same with Siemens, with Schneider, and with some other security vendors, but really the one where we are the more advanced is really the most advanced is already our Rockwell Automation. So regarding where we can deploy the Falcon agent, so I'm talking about the Falcon agent since the beginning, but basically this is a binary that you can deploy with different type of methods. You can actually use SCCM. You can use any any software deployment tool. But basically, where you can see here a Falcon agent or Falcon icon, that's where we can deploy the Falcon agent. So basically, it's HMI, engineering workstation, but also historian, replica, management server, SCADA server, any type of patching, jump servers, where it makes sense to deploy the Falcon agent. We do support many different type of operating system, Windows operating system, Linux operating system. And so we can really deploy that agent on many of those systems. That being said, for any type of level 0 and level 1, the control, any areas where at the industrial level process area, we are not able to deploy the Falcon agent, of course. We cannot deploy the Falcon agent on a PLC, on any of those firmware. But still, we can do many things with those devices in terms of visibility. Getting visibility of those devices can be actually done thanks to the Falcon agent itself. And I will tell you how we can do that. So, of course, there are many recommendations, and I will get back to this a bit later, but many recommendations on how to deploy the Falcon agent, because, of course, in the OT space, there are many things that we need to take care of, like the policies that have to be that have to be applied. So, like the detection policy instead of prevention policies, but also some recommendation on what are the modules, the cloud modules that we can enable. So basically, the goal of the Falcon agent is to collect telemetry from the endpoint. So we are hooking into the operating system kernel, and we are passively looking at any type of system events, network events, registry information, disk, memory write, and so on. And so by passively monitoring and collecting the telemetry, we are able to stream back that telemetry to the cloud in order to leverage the machine learning analysis, the behavioral analysis, like what we call the IOA, indicators of attacks, which is a series of behavior that we monitor to look for any type of behavior from ransomware. And so we are able to track this. We have both on-sensor machine learning and cloud machine learning. And so basically to communicate with the cloud, we have different type of architecture that we propose to customer that we suggest. We have an ICS reference architecture guide that I can share with you if needed, which is really dedicated to what kind of architecture, what kind of deployment we need to provide and what are the best practices in terms of policies and so on. So like proxy, the proxy deployment, the industrial DMZ that we can actually define and so on. Once you deploy the Falcon agent in the OT space, there are many valuable information you can get. Of course, the EDR for OT is really important. So we can get any type of activities which is recorded on the endpoint. So directly from the endpoint, we can collect that telemetry. And so we can get many valuable information, not only about the attacks, the ICS threats, but also simply about the activities itself around, as I told you, system events, network events, any type of command line which are actually running on the endpoint. So on the HMI or the engineering workstation, we can also see, as you can see in my screenshot here, we can also see the asset graph. What we call the asset graph is the relationship mapping between all the devices. So the managed device, the one where the Falcon agent has been deployed, we can see what are the relationship between those devices, if there is any communication between those devices, and all of that within the Purdue model, within the Purdue level. So we get the different type of Purdue model from level 2 to upper level. So that's those kind of information we can get. But not only, we can also get information about the application that are installed. From the telemetry we are collecting, we can see if any bad application, legitimate or bad application have been installed. And so we can track the change, we can whitelist or blacklist those specific applications. And so we can see if those applications are relevant to the OT HMI, for instance, or the OT engineering workstation. We can see also the network tables from there. one thing we can also do, which is not actually there's no screenshot related to that, but basically this is a new capabilities that we have introduced in our platform, which is the called File Vantage. File Vantage is a file monitoring tool which allow you to look for any change in a file and to notify, to alert, to trigger an alert if there is any modification in a file. Related to the OT world, it really makes sense to have, for instance, monitor a project file, a configuration file of a PLC. So we can see if there is any change from any of those project files from a HMI. So that's one thing we can do as well. So in short, that's all the capabilities here. So not only we are ICS aware, so we can provide with more context about the ICS assets, so the HMI, the SCADA server, the engineering workstation. We can provide you with more context, the device type, at which level of the Purdue model the machine stand, or anything related to the application as well. We can see also OT-specific detection, not only, by the way, about the threat itself, but the vulnerabilities. So we can provide you with a list of vulnerabilities on the machine. So if the machine is running a specific application, we can get information, we can map this against the vulnerability database that we keep up to date. So we have, and one thing which is important here is the information we are collecting around the vulnerabilities are already scanless. We don't need to scan. We don't need to deploy the network scanner to get insight about the vulnerabilities. The way we are doing it is just by collecting the telemetry, the system events, the application events, the network events, to get a better understanding of what are the application that are installed. And then we map this against the vulnerability database. That way we can provide you with a list of vulnerabilities, with the severity, with the exploits that are available for such vulnerabilities. And so the rigorous ICS vendor testing and certification, that's what we are doing. As I told you before, we are doing that first with Rockwell Automation, but we are trying to do that with some others. Rockwell Automation is really the most advanced partnership or validation that we have with an ICS vendor. So that's just a summary of the type of detection or capabilities of the OT EDR. So not only we can leverage basic IOC, I would say basic because IOCs is still the old way, the old-fashioned way to monitor threats, but it's still important to have IOCs. So we have in the for the OTDR capabilities, we have more than 70,000 IOCs, like domain, IP address, malicious domain, of course, malicious IP address, like command and control server, but also hashes, malware hashes that are specific to OT. Also, as I told you, we can see the link between user and that's the reason why I was saying at the beginning that we can protect identity, because we can see the link between machines, OT machines, HMI, and the user that have logged in on. And so we can get information about the activities, the password policies, if the admin password has been changed, has not been changed for the last 6 months. For instance, on a HMI, then we can trigger some detection or some alerts for that specific machine. And as I told you, the change that are made on IoT, not IoT. What we call actually IoT is the extended IoT, the industrial Internet of Things, as well as OT. So we can track the change for applications that are related to OT, but also project file, as I told you. So that's just a summary, and of course I can provide you with those slides. That's a summary of the different capabilities, and I think I told you about all those different type of capabilities here. So not only things that are really related to ICS. So we have specific capabilities for ICS, as I told you, and one thing which is important to understand here is also the extended support. What I mean by that is usually in the OT space, we don't like to update application or the Falcon agent itself. We don't like to update it too much, even if the updates are already transparent. But we want that machine to be really up to date. And still, we don't want to reboot the machine. One thing which is important here, not only you don't have to reboot the machine when you deploy the Falcon agent. So when you deploy the Falcon agent for the first time on a HMI or with Rockwell automation software, for instance, you don't have to reboot that machine. That's the first point. The second point is the support for that machine can be extended to 2 years, meaning that if you don't want to upgrade or to upgrade the Falcon agent, then you can stay with remain that with that Falcon agent for 2 years. No need to do it every 2 months. But yeah, the recommendation is still, and everything is actually tested. Sorry, with the latest version of the Falcon agent. The recommendation on the deployment is to have the Falcon agent version, the -1 version of the Falcon agent. One thing also which is important, so I told you about the ICS application visibility, the OT detection, like IOC, but also IOA, the indicators of attacks, which are basically the series of behavior that I was talking about to detect ransomware attack, but also the PLC-specific detection. So we have a way, and that's actually by leveraging what we call the ICS collector. The ICS collector is a way to leverage software-based mechanism from the machine where the Falcon agent is deployed. So let's imagine you have a Falcon agent deployed on a HMI with the ICS collector, which is I would say an added component, a component which is added to the Falcon agent. You can actually query or safe probe any surrounding device in an OT subnet. And the way we are doing it is basically by sending, first of all, broadcast packet in a safe way to list all of the surrounding neighboring devices in that subnet. And then we can start the communication with each of those individual devices. So I will provide you with an example. For instance, if it is a Rockwell automation device, a PLC, for instance, we can start with CIP. And then we can start also communicating with that Rockwell device in the native vendor language in read-only mode, and just by mimicking what an engineering workstation is usually doing. That way, we can request device attributes of that particular device. So PLC, but also HMI information, RTU, or any type of OT devices as well. So it provides you with a great overview of the system itself, and the link with the PLC-specific detection is that it's actually in the roadmap, to be frank with you, but it is actually planned for this year to be able to gather information of the configuration of the PLC by taking some snapshot of the PLC directly, and so seeing I would say getting information about what are the change, what are the difference between two snapshots, and potentially doing anomaly detection about the configuration of that PLC from time to time. So that's something that we can leverage with the ICS collector. So not only it provides you with visibility, but there's also some plan around vulnerabilities, as well as anomaly detection or anomaly detection on the configuration of the PLC. And so the certification. So let me tell you more about that. Basically, what does it mean when we talk about Rockwell and CrowdStrike? It means that the Falcon sensor has been tested with HMI, basically. So HMI itself and the software, the HMI software. To be frank with you, what has been tested officially, this is actually the FactoryTalk software. So if you are running FactoryTalk, you can make sure that if you are running also alongside with the Falcon sensor, it will work well. It has been tested, so no performance impact, no software incompatibility, no disruption of the industrial process by running the Falcon sensor. This is something that we have done so far with by collaborating, as it is written here, with the Rockwell Automation team. So Rockwell Automation is also now a certified CrowdStrike reseller as well. Just about Rockwell Automation, as I told you, we have a guide. That's actually something that I wrote. So it's there's probably some Franglish word. Sorry about that. But I think it's still valuable to understand what are the best practices in terms of deployment, what are the use cases, but also what are the best practices and recommendation guidelines on how to deploy the Falcon agent with the best policy, the best practices. Also one thing which I told you, which is about the fact that when we deploy the Falcon agent, we don't reboot the machine. And we don't like to restart any machine in the industrial process, of course. That being said, for some modules, sometimes we still need to reboot the machine. That's the case for device control, which is about monitoring the USB device. So, of course, when we refer to Stuxnet, for instance, we'd like to monitor USB device. But we have some recommendation on still enabling the USB monitoring without having to reboot the machine. So that's some of those best practices that you can find in that document that I can share with you. So that's the type of testings, and I will end with that. The type of testings that we have done so far with Rockwell Automation and that we are trying to do with some other vendors. Basically, it's around the compatibility, software compatibility. Also the compatibility, depending on the modules that we activate. Just for your information, we have more than 20 modules from the Falcon platform. So we can enable those modules from the cloud. No need to reinstall the Falcon agent. Once you deploy the Falcon agent, you don't have to reboot you don't have to reinstall the Falcon agent to enable those modules. But we are testing also different type of version, different type of prevention policy, detection policies. We are testing it for an extended period of time. We are also making sure that with the integration that we have with Clarity, Dragos, or Armis, or ForceGuard in the OT space, it's still working with those devices. And the last part is, of course, depending on deployment, like if you are leveraging proxy, then it will make sense also to test the software with the proxy architecture. That's basically what I wanted to say, and I think we are almost at the top of the hour. So if you have any question, I'm happy to answer any of them. I think there is a Q&A a chat here, so don't hesitate to ask any question. I will be happy to answer them.